Welcome to the Lean Life podcast, where holistic nutrition meets deep healing and soul-level wellness. This is a space where we connect mind, body, and spirit, where lean means shedding the layers, returning to who you truly are, and nourishing yourself from the inside out. I'm Lauren Ahola, your host and holistic registered dietitian with over a decade of experience, and I've learned that real healing goes far beyond food. It's emotional, spiritual, and deeply personal. If you're ready to go deeper, reconnect with yourself, and truly lean into all that you are, you're in the right place. Let's do this. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Lean Life podcast. In this first episode, I really just wanted to take the time to go a little more into about me and how lean was developed. So I've been a dietitian for 14 years now, and I went through the entire conventional training. I did my undergrad at the University of Rhode Island in nutrition, and then I went on to complete my master's and dietetic internship at Simmons College and finished that in 2012. So from there, I went to work in hospitals and long-term care. I really went more into, I guess I'd call it the safe route, and got a ton of experience working for different companies. But along the way, I learned that I was really meant to get into more preventative healing, and it just took me a couple years to get there. So before I dive into more about lean and where that came from, I just want to give you a background of how I got to be where I am. I find it more relatable. So nutrition's kind of been my lifelong journey. Even as an infant, I hear so many stories from my parents that I would projectile vomit formula across the room and had so many eczema breakouts and just never really tolerated food that well. And after that, I guess I would say that kind of went away. But as a kid, I was just your standard kid. You know, I ate the standard American diet, grew up on chicken fingers and Celeste pizza and grilled cheese. And my friends and I would spend time in their basements playing Nintendo and drinking Mountain Dew and eating Cool Ranch Doritos. So pretty much that standard sad diet, standard American diet, they call it. And I just started to become a chubby kid. And I think it was always in my subconscious, just even comparison to my sister, who was always really tiny and did dance and cheer. And I was always more into sports, and I'd shop at MVP Sports and get the swooshy pants and sweatshirts, and that was more my comfort zone. But it didn't really become apparent to me until this one instance in 5th grade. I think we all have those instances that really stick out with us and just really impact our life. And this is one that really, really shifted mine. I remember being at a table in 5th grade with some of my girlfriends, and there were some guys in my class, and we were just kind of bantering back and forth. And I remember saying something that they really didn't like, and they started coming at me saying, one said, "You should go on Jenny Craig," and the other one said, "You should go on Slim Fast," and they laughed. And I just kind of laughed along with them and kind of wrote it off. But I remember going home that day and just crying, and just kind of held it all in. And from that moment, I remember just starting to not really want to be seen or heard. And I was always someone to raise my hand in class and was not afraid to say what I want to say. But from that moment, I learned that being small and hiding was safer. And I think a lot of women can start to feel that way in their lives, especially with society or even ancestral things of it was just safer for women to be small, not be seen, be nice. In witch trials, past ancestral stuff in our DNA can be so embedded that if we are seen and speak our needs, say what we want to say, we could be killed. Right? So there's so much more behind it, and I could go on a tangent with that. But basically, from that moment, I just became very quiet. And then going on into high school, I got more involved in sports. And I was on the high school soccer team, and we had practice 5 days a week. And I learned, if I exercise more and I don't eat as much, I'll lose weight. And I lost a lot of weight really quick. And I really liked the attention behind it. I remember people looked at me differently, or I thought I was more attractive. But as a cause of that, I stopped getting my periods, which is called hypothalamic amenorrhea, when the body doesn't feel safe enough, or you lose too much weight or aren't eating enough or over-exercising. A lot of women can experience that, where you stop getting your menstrual cycles because your body doesn't feel safe enough to have a baby. And that's something I can go into more episodes down the road that I work with a lot of clients for. But yeah, that led me to see a dietitian myself. My doctor had recommended that I go see one, and I remember going into her office, and all she told me to do was add a cookie to my lunch. It was one little tip, but I loved being in her office, and I told myself, I'm going to do that someday, and I think it's really pretty cool that I do now. I will say that one instance helped me to gain weight. I ended up getting my period back, but it was just the beginning of my journey and cycles with body image and health and wellness. But that kind of led me through high school and got a little better with eating. And then I remember next step was to go to college, right? That's just what you do. But knowing myself, I knew this is how I made my college choices. Number one, I learned I just knew myself and I didn't like to work. So I needed to go for something that interested me. And number two, maybe more the main reason, was out of control. If I go to school for nutrition, I always thought I'd be perfect and skinny, right? So that's what I did. I showed up in college and was super stressed and was obsessed with my classes, and I started working out 2 to 3 hours a day. I started to restrict my food and really got myself down to way less than I did in 5th grade, which is absolutely crazy when I think about it. But from the outside, I thought I looked awesome and I thought I fit the role. But little did I know until later in life, I really wasn't. I think deep down I knew, but yeah, I would restrict my food. I lived in a sorority house for a couple of years, and we had a chef, and he would cook these awesome meals, but I refused to eat any of them. I would keep my own food in my room, or I'd go to the dining hall, and they had a few times where they made my rice bowl stir fry with oil instead of water, and I freaked out and made them do it again. And I'd save my calories for alcohol and fun with my friends on the weekend, and then just restrict and work out and, just try to, whatever it took to be skinny, right? But I've definitely learned that skinny doesn't mean healthy. But at the time, I think it's really what I needed to learn. And a lot of my journey has been learning what doesn't work to help other people. And so I said I lost my period in high school, and I definitely would have in college, but I was on birth control, and birth control just masks all your symptoms. You think you're getting your period, but it's just a fake pill bleed. And that will be a whole nother episode to go into, and how my healing really, we'll get into that a little later in this episode, but coming off birth control really, really changed my life. But during college, I guess it was what I needed to stay in my safe little corner and just focus on school and work hard and exhaust myself to the extremes. And so I finished college and worked in a hospital for a year and did my master's and my internship. And the hospital just wasn't for me. I learned a lot. It was a crazy place. But after that, I did my master's in a year, and I didn't have a job. And my friend was moving to California in San Diego. And I was like, you know what? Frig it. I'm going to go. I love the warm weather. I hate the cold. This beach life, I think, is for me. And I thought it was going to be my forever. It wasn't, but I learned so much there. And in San Diego, I started working in long-term care. I got a lot more nutrition experience. And I really got more into yoga at that point. I had done classes before here and there, and I only really went to the really sweaty, hot power classes because that's where you get your workout, right? Feeling like you're going to die. But I signed up for yoga teacher training. I thought it'd be a really good way to meet friends in a place that I was, across the country, away from my comfort zone and my friends and family. But I did learn so much more than that. And it was the first time I can remember in a long time that I had given myself complete permission to stop running, to stop doing intense HIIT workouts. And I really just focused on yoga. And it really allowed me to understand what it's like to connect with my body and to slow down and to understand my hunger and fullness cues more. Because when we're working out so much, so hard, or not eating enough, we can become really disconnected from understanding, am I actually hungry? Am I actually full? Did I fuel enough? And when we're running on exhaustion all the time, we can just start to think it's normal. But that really gave me some contrast in the opposite for what it was to feel good. And so I got my yoga teacher training, 200-hour, in 2015, and I am currently a yoga teacher as well, taking a break right now, but yoga's taught me a lot in my life, and I love incorporating that into my practice with clients, whether they do yoga or not. It's just a lot of mindset of meditation and breathing and slowness and really feeling into your body, which can really translate a lot into how we eat and our relationship with food. So was probably the biggest thing I learned in California. And after that, something within me, I just started to really not feel my best in California. That really led me to more functional medicine out of nowhere. I would say it's 2016, 2017. I randomly didn't change anything, and I just started to gain weight and have all these eczema breakouts and just feel really bloated and crappy. And I remember going to my doctor at the time, and she just kept sending me home with a cream. And I was like, what the frig? This definitely isn't working. And I was probably her most annoying patient she had. So I did my own research, and being in California, there was a little more resources at the time. And I found a functional medicine practice to start working with. And it's called Nourish Medical Center in San Diego. And they were absolutely amazing. And I'll still see them myself on and off if needed. You can see them online, or if you're in California or San Diego area, I would highly recommend seeing them. But that's where I really started to dive more into functional medicine. I just didn't understand, okay, I'm doing yoga, I'm slowing down. Why do I feel like crap, and why am I randomly gaining weight? And that's what I see a lot within my clients. It's so much more than what we eat and how we move our body. It's starting to dive a little deeper into why. And she ran so many tests on me that I had never seen done before. And we checked my cortisol level. We're through the roof. I did a food sensitivity and a food allergy test, and not any allergies came up, but food sensitivities, I tested pretty much high on every single food. She's like, my God, you can't eat anything. And I was super high in all areas of dairy. And that was a really big clue for me as why my eczema was acting up so much, because there's a big link between food sensitivities, especially dairy and skin stuff. And we did more lab work, gut testing, and I added it back in more strength training as well from just doing yoga. And it took time, 6 months of diving into healing my stress, my gut, finding a balance of exercise that worked. I've learned that I need a little more than yoga, but not to push it too much. But the strength training really, really helped for me for gaining some muscle back. And it took time. And I remember I would, check in weekly, and I still felt the same. And then 6 months later, I felt absolutely amazing and was like, I need to add this more into my practice. So that was my first dive into functional medicine in 2017. And it's only gotten deeper over the past few years. And I'm really happy that I took that back from California with me, because I ended up moving back from San Diego in 2017. And I think that was a big reason why, too, my body started to freak out in California, because there's often so much more than the physical, like I was saying, right? I was so stressed out. I didn't have the best friendships. I felt very lonely, and that can cause a lot of internal stress within the body. And healing those emotional things and asking for help and moving home, I think, was a big part of my healing journey as well. So since then, I've been in the South Shore of Massachusetts, and coming right back, I landed my first job in outpatient counseling, which I loved. I worked in a weight and wellness center with 2 doctors and another dietitian. I got so much experience I would see up to 14 clients a day, which was absolutely crazy now that I think about it. Working with mostly people who would come in for weight loss, health, and wellness, but it always led to more. And I was there for 3 years, and over time, it just didn't really feel aligned anymore. I really hated the amount of people and pressure we were meant to see on numbers. I maybe got 15 to 30 minutes max with a client, and it just always felt so rushed, and then I didn't get to know the person. And then working under doctor guidelines, I just knew it wasn't right. But I guess the big turning point for me was really during COVID. I think it was a big turning point for a lot of us. COVID is where I really started my own business. I remember just the world shutting down and not going to work and starting to do more of this on my own and realizing I could. I just couldn't go back. I couldn't go back to the rules, the regulations, and I knew it was time for a shift. So that's where Lean really came into formation. I dragged my feet a couple years before. So Lean stands for Lauren Elaine Ahola Nutrition. And I remember just trying to think of the perfect name for this business. And I had spent all my weekend just, doing the details of websites and business cards. And I remember waking up in the middle of the night and was like, oh my God, I know the name. It's going to be Lean. And basically it's just, I added on nutrition to my name, and that's what the acronym spells. But it's more beyond that. I think with Lean, the first thing most people probably think of with nutrition is being lean, right? Physically lean. But I look at it as a little bit deeper of living leaner, of shedding layers that no longer serve you. You can have a lean diet, right? Cutting out all the processed foods and crap that makes you feel like crap. You can have a lean mind of getting rid of all that clutter and negative thoughts and anxieties that really hold us back. A lean body, yes, it might look leaner, but getting and shedding the clutter of toxins in your body or whatever pain, whatever it is that doesn't feel good in your body. And then the other meaning of lean that I've really liked is leaning into all that you are, right? We get rid of the layers that you aren't, but who are you? And when we start to feel good and confident in ourselves, we can really lean into who we are. And that is your true, most aligned, most healthiest, awesome self. And sometimes it takes going through all that clutter to find it, right? This is not often the easiest path. It's not a quick path, but it's a true path, a path back to yourself, a path back to you being able to express who you truly are and feeling good in your own skin. And that's what I really love to help clients with. I work with so many different people. People will see me for, yes, a lot of wanting to feel better in their bodies, right? Weight loss or just better relationship with food and their body. And that often dives much deeper into, okay, why, right? Do we need to work through the education part is often the easiest of hey, here's what, we should eat more lean protein or vegetables and fruits and meal planning and getting you an exercise routine and water, right? That's so fun to go through and can be so helpful, but sometimes it comes to a certain point for people of, okay, we need more, right? What are your hormones doing? What is your gut health like? Where's your mindset at? And that's where we bring the functional medicine piece in. So yeah, I really, really love what I do. I see clients in Marshfield and at Plymouth Fitness in Plymouth, and then I do clients online as well. And this podcast is really just meant to be a resource for everybody that I currently work with or potentially work with, or maybe friends and families that you want to share it with. So yeah, I'm excited to share more. And just to get into a little bit more of what's happened since COVID, right? That's where Lean started. My gosh, so much has happened since then. COVID was when my life pretty much shattered wide open. And with that time, so my friend and I, we started a yoga business together, one of my best friends, and it was so much fun. We spent, we ran yoga retreats and classes and workshops and yoga trainings and But also doing all those things, and maybe it was just COVID and the timing. I don't really know. We can't look for answers and purpose and everything, but I will say my spiritual awakening just skyrocketed at that time. And it was really, really tough. And it led me to do more plant medicine ceremonies and go down to Peru and do ayahuasca and look so much within myself, and has really helped me to get more into how to deal with that, of getting into the shadow work part of it, which is looking at layers of ourselves that maybe we hide, or like I said from the beginning, from our childhood that we carry on with us, and being able to really just work through a lot of those things. And that has been some of the most helpful things in my health and wellness journey that I share with others as well. But it's never required. If somebody's ready to get into it, we go into it. But I will say, yeah, I spent quite a few years, and still do, just dealing with the emotions that come up, because we can't deny that part of it. This is a quantum physics measure, but from what I know, we're 0.99999% physical matter. The rest is our emotions, our soul. So it's so much more into it. And I guess I'm bringing this up because if you work with me or are interested in this stuff, you're going to hear it on the podcast, and you are going to hear this weaved into all my nutrition things, because it matters. It really matters. So yeah, that's my spiritual part of COVID, which is ongoing and forever will be at different phases, because we're spiritual beings. But I will say, kind of tying this back into some of the hormone stuff as well, 2020 is also when I came off birth control. As I mentioned before, that masked a lot of my symptoms. So with my health insurance running out, because I quit my job, I was like, no, we're not going to take this anymore. And I just intuitively knew it wasn't the best decision for me. So, and I had been on it for 14, 15 years, which is crazy that doctors never even tell us about it from when we're teenagers. And they're just like, here's a pill, it's going to fix all your problems. Yes, it has a place, but I think it needs to be talked about more. So I ended up coming off, and instantly I felt way better. And I felt more aligned with myself. I felt more in tune with my senses. I just felt clearer. But here's where a big turning point came in. After, coming off, sometimes it takes time to reset. You give it a couple months, 2-3 months, but I didn't get my period back, and I did not get it back for a year and a half, and was like, what the hell is going on? But that's where, knowing from my past of not eating enough and exercising too much, I was like, okay, we are not done here. And I, with the spiritual journey, dove super deep into my body image and allowing myself to feel safe to gain weight. And that was one of the most scariest things I've ever done, especially doing this for work. And I created so much fear in my body. It was a day-to-day process of okay, what can you do today? Because in my mind, I thought that, okay, I'm going to gain 100 pounds. I'm going to lose all my clients. Nobody's going to like me. But I knew I just needed to do it. It's like diving into the fear on the other side is where the greatest things come from. And what got me through that is just every day of, okay, what would my best self do? Would my best self go run 1,000 miles, or not 1,000, but 10 miles, and not eat enough? And the answer was never, yes, my best self would do that. It's always my best self would allow myself to maybe go for a walk or move in a way that feels good, or eat to fuel myself with the nutrients I need. And I just kept reminding myself that can't be wrong. And along the way, I gained more energy. I gained more confidence and acceptance in my body. And it never turned out to be as scary as I thought. And yes, I gained a little bit of weight, but it was a comfortable weight that I felt good in. And it allowed me to heal and to get my cycle back to a point that was really healthy and regular. So that's just the start of my hormone journey, and I share a lot of it with clients. But 2020, man, it really was a time of learning and healing. And since then, everything's been really great hormonally wise. And another layer to add of why I help people so much with gut healing. So I mentioned before, in 2017, I started to have eczema and weight gain and bloating. And then it got better. And then I had healed my hormones, had my weight at a healthy weight, and started to feel so bloated, skin rashes, constipated, just all of it. And was like, I don't understand. This was probably in 2021 to 2023. And that led me down more rabbit holes of functional medicine and healing. And I started diving deeper into gut testing. I did the GI map stool sample test, a SIBO breath test. And I tell you, I was probably diagnosed with everything you could think of. We had leaky gut, SIBO, candida, H. pylori, parasites. You name it on the test, it pretty much came up for me. And through a few years of healing that with supplements, diets, mindset stuff, working with practitioners, I can say I feel so much better. I've retested, been able to heal everything. And I work with so many clients now going through similar things, and I really, really feel for them. And it has helped me to understand, just going into knowing how I felt. When someone comes in and describes how they feel, I get it. And that I'm so thankful for, because it's really hard to sympathize and understand somebody if you've never experienced or felt it. So I will say the gut health journey is something that we can't deny in nutrition too. So you will hear a lot of that. And I always tell my clients, we become what we eat, not what we absorb. So if something is off there and then there's inflammation and you're not breaking down all your nutrients, it's really, really hard to meet your goals, even if you are eating perfectly and working out like you should. So yeah, we go deep here, and it's all useful and helpful. And some of this may apply to you and some of it may not. But everybody's different, and you're on your own path too. And so leading to today is my first podcast episode. I've been really wanting to push myself to do that, to get back to that fear that I've mentioned of playing small, wanting to hide. And in my office, right, if I work one-on-one with clients, it's so much easier to do that. It's a safe space. But to push myself out of my comfort zone and start to share more, because if any of this helps other people, it's worth it. And so I hope you continue to follow along on this journey with me. And in this podcast, we'll cover all sorts of things. We'll dive deeper into functional holistic nutrition, looking at the latest tips, trends in the nutrition world, talking a lot about protein, because everybody wants to know what their protein goals are. Do we need enough, or do we eat enough of it? What types can I get? Looking at other superfoods and energies like fiber, vitamins, minerals, healthy fats, going into the GLP-1s, hormones for all stages, whether you're, looking at fertility, menopause, perimenopause, in your menstruation years, gut health deep dives into everything you could think of. And then also, of course, we'll bring in some mindset, manifestation, and talking about how to develop a better relationship with yourself and food. And we'll have some of my favorite experts in the area to bring some of their expertise as well. And so I am so excited you're here with me on this journey to live a leaner life.